Hello everyone and welcome back. It's only been a week since I've been gone this time. My name is Shannon and this is Made by Boo, where I talk about whatever it is I've been making lately. So this week I have, looks like some knitting, some crochet, and a little bit of spinning. I normally have a little bit longer in between, usually try to go every 2 weeks, but just based on summer travel schedules, it seemed easier to film 2 weeks in a row so that next weekend I don't have to go 3 weeks without filming. And I do have quite a few things to show. With it only being a week, I don't have any actual finished objects. I do have a half-finished object, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 works in progress. So clearly I've been busy adding new stuff, and we will just dive right in. The first one I will start with is my half-finished project. These are my Love Story socks. The pattern is by the Crazy Sock Lady, and I have been using Twisted Yarns Sparkle Sock Base in the colors Time Traveler Blue and Temporal Vortex. I know I always struggle to get a good focus on everything, but here is just a quick peek at those two yarns. I have been working these socks in Magic Loop, which is not my normal way of doing socks. Most of the time I do them on double pointed needles and work them in tandem so that I have both socks going, and when I finish the first one, the next one is not far behind. But I now have one finished Love Story sock. Last time we spoke, I was down here by my little stitch marker. So I went through and finished this sock. I mean, looks like a lot, but it's just finishing one sock. And I have cast on the next one, but as you can see, I'm just a little bit on the cuff. I'd have to double check how many rows I've done, but I think maybe a third to a half of the way through the cuff. Not very far yet, but I am enjoying working on those. Most of these projects are going to be a little bit on the back burner. You will see why in a moment. But that is my half-finished sock. This is why we're going to have some back-burnered socks. So this is technically also a half-finished object. I've shown the first sock finished before, but it is now Sock Week, which is put on by Nitty Natty. I am filming on July 9th. That is when Sock Week officially started, and I cast on when they were doing the cast on party, so like very, very, very late last night. I can't remember the exact time difference. I think I'm about an hour or so off from her time where she was at midnight. But I also worked on them a little bit early this morning. And this is the sock I am going to be working on for Sock Week. So you can see a little bit of work this morning. I do get up very early. The yarn that I am using is from FanGirl Fibers. This was the colorway from Star Wars Day. So this was episode 4, A New Hope. And I mean, you can see in the completed sock, I've got some yellow, some purple, and some gray. So I've already worked through all the purple that's going to be in the sock. I've got quite a bit left over. I'm anticipating having enough to make an entire another pair of socks out of these, but I don't know if I will. So these are going to be my main focus for this week. I've never done Sock Week before. Like, I knew it existed, but I've never attempted to do a single sock in a week. For some people that may not sound like a lot. On average, I usually go through making a pair of socks about every 3 weeks, but I usually work on them primarily as like car knitting, and I'm working on them in tandem, so I'm not really sure how long each individual sock takes me. I did choose intentionally to do shorter socks because I really did want to finish it in the week, so I'm hoping to work on these some more today, and then I don't think I'll be able to just leave them as car knitting for the week, but hopefully I can at least get very, very close because I would love to have that pair of socks finished. So the next project that I have right here, ooh, I am talking a lot and talking very fast. So the next work in progress I have right here, if this were not sock week, this would probably be my focus for a little while. So I am working on the Mussleburgh Hat from Ysolda Teague. I am using Evergreen Yarn Studio Summit Sock Base, so it's an 85 extra fine superwash merino, 15% nylon, and this is listed as the color Galaxy. So, ooh, the way that pools is very pretty on here. So here is my little Darth Vader stitch marker. So you can see in the last week I have made a lot of progress on this. This actually was my car knitting for the week. Since I was waiting to start a different sock and I really didn't want to be trying to do the pattern sock of the Love Story socks, this was a really good substitute for just sitting there before work, if I'm working on my lectures. And I have been working on this hat with the idea that I want to use as much of the yarn as possible. So I knit the crown, measured how much yarn I used, and then my plan was to give myself a little bit of a buffer. So I used 11 grams of yarn for the crown. So my plan was to knit until I had about somewhere between 15 and 17 grams of yarn. I wanted to make sure I had a good buffer. If I have some left over, I do have some ideas for scrappy projects coming up using superwash fingering weight yarn. So having a little bit left over for that would not be bad. And you can see I'm getting very close to the end. When I measured it last night, I believe I had 22 grams of yarn. So were this not sock week, I would probably just be pushing through and trying to finish this hat, because when it's this close to being done, sometimes it's like, all right, get it off the needles, move on to the next project. And after sock week, that may be kind of a push. This will definitely be some backup mindless knitting because it's just stockinette in the round and I have about 5 more grams to go. I know I've mentioned it before, I'm not really a big hat wearer, and therefore I have never really been a big hat knitter. I was mostly trying this one out as a way to use up some of my fingering weight single skeins of yarn. I love getting those, I love sock sets, but there's only so fast I can go through those, and I do live in a cold area. I am here in Idaho, so when the winter comes around, having a hat is not a bad thing. I'm not sure if I'm going to wear it. That is still kind of a big question. Not being a big hat person, who knows? But I am enjoying making it, and so I may make more hats like this in the future as it's just a nice, simple, mindless project. And, I mean, hats are very giftable. So I know people who will wear hats if I make them for them. All right, so continuing to zoom on through, the next project that I have right here is a new one on my needles. I started it this last week mostly because I needed something that was easy, and with my Mussleburgh out and about, I didn't have it easily accessible. But this is also something I really wanted to make. So I am working on, let me see. So I have not caked up all of them. This is using Expression Fiber Arts Luster Sport in the color Silvery Seas. I've just caked up the first one, and I'm sure eventually I'll cake up all the others. I just haven't. So I am working on a pattern from Expression Fiber Arts. Every Friday they put out a free pattern, and I tend to just kind of hoard them if I like the pattern. and work on them when I get the chance. One of the ones they released this summer was, I think I'm going to say it wrong, Panopeia. It is a knitted t-shirt where it's stockinette on the bottom and lace on the top. You can do it sleeveless or with sleeves. I am planning on with sleeves. And it is knit flat, bottom up. So I am just starting on basically this big old chunk of stockinette. I did do a gauge swatch. I'm still a little bit concerned because, I mean, I know it's going to be harder for you to see, but from here this seems very see-through to me. Yeah, I can very clearly see my image. Obviously, when it, like this one that I did and actually blocked, it's a little less see-through. So I'm kind of hoping that blocking was going to cover some of that. If not, that is what undershirts are for. I'm not very far on that project, and I'm not really in a major rush to finish it. As you can see, I have several other small projects going and a couple of other ones around here. I love the shirt. This one is just kind of one where I started it because I wanted the shirt and I wanted something that would be easy to work on, and until I hit the lace section, it's just like, I think it says 109 rows is something I'm working on. The pattern is a paid for pattern on Expression Fiber Arts. If you did not get it when it was free, if you're interested in random free patterns, you can always subscribe, but sometimes the patterns are worth going and getting later. I always just keep an eye out because, you know, free pattern saves a lot of money, and if I know I'm going to want to make it in the future, getting that pattern then makes a lot of sense. So I have 2 more works in progress, and this is, I guess, kind of 3 more works in progress. So my spinning this last week, if you've been here a little while, I have a final in my class in a week, which means stress is getting to me and the spinning wheel is coming out. So these came from Paradise Fibers. I get their fiber of the month, so every month they send me different kind of fiber, different colors, different everything, and these came a few months ago. I was really excited about working on it, but I just did not get it done instantly, and I'm really happy with how they came out. Normally I would weigh the fiber if I know it's going to go on 2 spools. I don't know why I didn't this time. Somehow in my mind it was going to be fine, and then I almost filled this spool and I was like, oh, well, I better switch, but that's fine. I'm about halfway, and as you can see, I was not. The plan is to ply this together, so it's sort of a work in progress. They've just been resting on the spools. I may get out my wheel later today and try to ply them. It may take another few days, but hopefully soon. I'm very, very happy with the way these colors came out. I want to say they were in a butterfly themed box, so can't argue with that. Sorry, had to pause to let the dog in the room, otherwise she would have sat at the door barking. Well, come here then, puppy. Oh. So she has just recently discovered that she can sit in the chair next to me, and now she's decided if I'm in this chair, she should be too. So hopefully she'll behave herself. You want to say hi, Lucy? Yeah, okay. So, I have 2 more works in progress to show today. This is one I am very proud of the progress I've made on it. So this is my year-long mystery knit-along. It is the pattern Advertence from Expression Fiber Arts. I have been working on it using So Happy Jane from her Hand-Dyed Happy Yarn Club. I want to say she's been closed to new subscriptions over the summer. I believe she's going to be reopening in August, but I am not 100% sure. Well, relax, pup. Yeah. But here is my progress. So we've got January, February. Got some March. Now I have been behind. There's April, May, and let's see. There is the stitch marker where I was a week ago. I am now into working on June, which I know it is July, so I am still behind, but I am catching up. This section here of May had 90 rows in this section. This is a free pattern. You can still technically get on the site and download the pattern that will have all the clues up until now, so I don't feel too bad talking too much about it. It is mosaic knitting, but this May section had 90 rows in it, so at this point I was a third of the way through because the repeat was like 30 rows. So then last weekend after filming I got the next 60 rows. June section is actually 66 rows and it's a 22 row repeat, so I have the first repeat done. The color I chose to put in, I had been doing it somewhat randomly, which is why the colors are, I mean, it's not necessarily like a cohesive color scheme. I was just picking a color from every month from my Hand Dyed Happy Yarn Club, and then her base changed and I was feeling like I wasn't always getting as good of a contrast as I could. So what I would have had this month would have been this dark purple with a dark green, and I decided, you know what, I'm not doing it, I'm going to pick different ones. So I went back, and this is a color from December. It actually came with this one. And the leftovers of these I think would make a very cute pair of socks with like the solid and the speckle. But I wasn't entirely sure how I felt about the purple and the blue. But I put together all of my Hand Dyed Happy yarns that would be good to go in next. And the purple and the blue, I think it does look good together. And then it's going to be the blue and the green, and then after that, the other choices that I have to put in there look better with the green than they would have looked with the purple, if that makes sense. Using the blue at this point was just a very logical decision, but it was also one that I liked, so there is why that blue and purple is there. There's definitely still a part of me that's nervous about some of the color choices I have made. I do think, should I choose to do something like this again, I may go with the recommended colors, assuming they are colors that I like. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what I was thinking. I just kind of figured, oh, it's fine. Every month it's going to be different. And I think it's going to be unique. But I think I might have liked it if I had known the way all of the colors of the year were going to go together. And I couldn't possibly have known that until after doing it. Therefore, maybe I should have just gone with their recommended colors. But I also didn't want to be buying the extra yarn all year of whatever color they said. I order it and then put it in and then always behind. And it seemed logical to go with a subscription service I was already getting. But I think next time I will not leave it quite as much to random chance. So, after that ramble, the last work in progress I started this last week. It is not currently connected to anything. This is my data blanket. It is a version of a temperature blanket. It is crochet, and I am working on it using a candy shop crochet hook from Furls Fiber Arts. I don't always use the candy shop ones. I have a couple of them, and I honestly do not remember what size this is because it's not printed on it, but each different size of the candy shop line looks a little different. I just can't remember which one this is. I think it might be a 4mm. I double checked it when I started the project, but then I forgot already. So, the idea of this blanket, I have mentioned it pretty much every single time I have been on here that I am in school, I am completing field work, and I am going to have to complete a certification test, so I am doing a lot of studying. Part of my studying is taking a whole bunch of practice quizzes that build fluency in terms, and it's what exactly I'm doing is not entirely the point, but it means that I have pages and pages and pages and pages of test scores. And it's going to continue because while I am hoping to be done my goal is to be done by October, which means theoretically I may want to test in September just in case I don't pass my first time. Really hoping I do, but not everyone does. So I was starting to get a little burned out, a little tired, and wanting something. Oh no. Okay, I have to fix that. Sorry. Wanting something that would make my studying feel a little less drudgery. I wanted some sort of a reward system, something, but I couldn't think of what I was going to give myself, and then I realized a craft project. Temperature blanket, but instead of the temperature of the day, it is the test scores. So I started with some of my old ones, and I'm putting little stitch markers every 10 rows. It's just a single crochet. In my calculations before, basically anything taller than a single crochet could significantly make it so that this would be an unusable size of blanket. I chose to not make it very, very long. Like you can see, I can hold it in my hands. Not all in frame at once, but you can see my arms are not held out totally wide. I am taking a couple of different kinds of tests throughout this, and I have a couple of different color palettes as a part of that. So what I am working with now, let's see if I can pick them all up, because I have them in this little basket, but they don't fit very well. So I have this as a current color palette, and then for the other kinds of tests I'm taking, I have another color palette that's using greens. I have some black, white, and gray kind of neutrals for another kind of test. So the basic idea is that I may be doing, instead of one big blanket, more along the lines of 2 shawls. I haven't entirely decided, and some of it is really going to depend on how long it is, because the colors that I'm using now, I was using one type of test for a long time before I introduced the second type of test into my studying. So when I get to about where it would change, I mean, I'm still taking tests, all of that, and I am just highlighting the test score when it goes into here. I'm using these, they're like a waxy highlighter crayon from Expression Fiber Arts. But I will decide if it's going to be 1 shawl or 2 shawls when I get to the end of the first rotation, I guess. This is definitely one of those things where if you're not in the field, not using these study materials, it's a whole bunch of kind of useless information about it, which means giving you all the details of all these tests. Again, if you're not in it, you're either not necessarily going to understand or not care. So it may be 2 shawls, it may be 1 shawl, but I really just decided that I would be more likely to use something that was a wraparound shawl or a lap blanket versus a bed-size blanket. Alright, sorry, camera battery had to restart. So the yarn that I am using for this is Cascade Yarn's Heritage Yarn. It's a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. I wanted something that was kind of like this kind of like mid-range special. I didn't necessarily want to go with a small business hand-dyed from Etsy that if I needed more of something, I would never be able to replace and would be incredibly expensive to use enough for all of this. But I also did not want to just go down to Joann's or Michael's and get like Red Heart. I know I am not like anti-acrylic. Oh, bye Lucy. I'm not anti-acrylic. I'm not anti-Red Heart. It is not my personal favorite, but I wanted the yarn to feel a little more special than just your average cheap yarn. And I felt like this one really kind of was a good mid-range. I bought it from Paradise Fibers. And I think I have about 15 or 16 different colors in my color palette. Yeah, 16 different colors in my color palette. I have it broken down. Let me fix this while I talk. So each test has 6 colors within the range. I basically decided anything other than a 50% is one color because, you know, in my mind it's like, well, I definitely failed. And then I have a block for 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, and 100%. I have a set of 4 for taking like big practice exams, and then another set of 6 for the other kinds of fluency tests. Like I said, it's just a weird thing, but for me personally, the idea of seeing all of this data going out, hopefully showing how I had some lower scores and then they just progressively got better. Not necessarily always perfect, but better. Eventually I will add a color 17. I have not decided what color it's going to be, but when I am done, there will theoretically be one stripe at the end saying I'm done, I passed the actual big exam. I may technically need to count on one saying I took the big exam and failed, and one saying I took the big exam and passed, but I am trying not to plan a color for failure. I know I may have to, but should I fail, I will probably be special ordering that color, and I will be already ordering the I passed color. I just haven't quite decided what color that's going to be. I think I will end up deciding when I determine if this is going to be 1 or 2 blankets. I'm kind of leaning towards a purple, which if it's all in one, blues, greens, and purple would be fine. But if I have like a green blanket and then one stripe of purple at the end, I'm not sure if I would like that as much. So it's probably going to be a purple or a yellow, maybe a pink. I don't know. I'm still thinking about that one, and I still have time to decide what the I passed everything color is. So that was a lot of babbling about data again. That is all of my works in progress. All I have left is a little bit of acquisition. Technically speaking, I did receive a couple new colors for that data blanket palette. I had ordered all of those and talked about them last week and then realized there was 2 colors that I had selected but missed ordering. So those came in. They are buried in there. The other 2 things that I received is when I ordered the colors with one of them, I ordered a Pieces of Paradise Blender's Delight. So this is from Paradise Fibers, and it is a 1-pound bag of random fiber colors. So like if you look, you can see I seem to have a lot of cool tones, some dark tones, little big burst here of an orange and red. This was basically just a big chunk that you can mix a bunch of random colors together. I actually have done this from them before, not with their Pieces of Paradise Blender's Delight set. 1 month in their Fiber of the Month Club, what they did was a big bag that was little pieces of all the colors that they had done previously. Everybody's bag was a little bit different. You may have gotten colors that you had never gotten before. Like, you weren't guaranteed to get every color that had ever been in a Fiber of the Month Club, but it was a bag like this that was all those different colors, and it made what I personally thought was an absolutely beautiful yarn. It is one of the few that I actually did use to knit something up, and I used it to knit up a cowl that I gave to my mother, so I cannot show it now. But just spinning is something very relaxing. The next few months there's going to be some stress, and I thought doing another kind of yarn like that would be fun. I did not know exactly what this was going to look like because I have never ordered a Blender's Delight from them. I can definitely see that there are like big chunks of some shades and not as many small chunks of colors as I got when they did their other one for the Fiber of the Month. I am still excited about this. And I will probably do it in a somewhat similar way where I will break it into pieces. Each of those pieces goes into half so that, and then I'm randomly picking them out and then plying them together, so it's a very marled random color collection. But yeah, when this comes, you will see it. And then the other I received, it just came in the mail yesterday. It is from Expression Fiber Arts, and it was an Oopsie mystery pack. So I had no idea what color I was going to be getting, only that it was an Oopsie yarn. So their Oopsie yarns are colors that just didn't come out exactly as they planned. So they still sell them because, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that they are unattractive colors. They are just not the color they were going for. So this Oopsie mystery pack was in Luster Sports. That's a 50% superwash merino, 50% lyocell, and, you know, sport weight. So, I mean, it is in a bag. I think in person it might be just a little more brown than the red that the camera is picking up. I would not have picked a coppery brown on my own, but I like it. That is one thing I really like about mystery things. It's one of the reasons why I like the subscription boxes I have, is there are definitely things that I would not have necessarily gravitated toward to begin with, but it doesn't mean that they are not beautiful on their own. I am not 100% sure what I will do with this Oopsie mystery pack. The shirt that I'm making said it would, for my size, it would take 3 to 4 of a very similar, I mean, this is the kind of yarn I'm using for it. So I may end up doing a shirt like that if I complete this other one and I like it, or, I mean, 3 of these might make a pretty tank top. It's a very, very soft yarn, and as I showed with the other one, let me see if I can dig that out. Sorry, it's at the bottom here. It's very, very soft, very squishy, and if you look, like, I know it's going to be hard to pick it up on camera with the lights and everything, there is just a slight pearly sheen to it. So, I mean, I think it would make a very, very beautiful top, but I am not a small person, so I don't tend to make a lot of, like, tops, partially because they tend to take a lot more yarn. I'm always a little bit worried about whether or not I actually have enough. So we will see where that one ends up. So I think that's actually all I have today. I babbled a lot about some of the projects I'm working on, and I think when my thought process starts coming out, it's not always very coherent, but I promise in my mind it makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't, because it is, I definitely feel like creating an art has to be kind of a fluid process. I try to make it so that things don't go the way I plan. It's okay. This is fine. We will adjust. It doesn't always work, but I do feel like having that fluid process definitely helps me personally. But it may be a little bit strange to hear. So that is all I have for today. I am going to put this away because I have some more studying to do. I have my Sock Week socks that I would really like to get a good amount of progress made on, and naturally I have some editing to do so that this can actually get to you. So I hope everyone enjoys their weekend and have a very happy making.